Imagine this for a moment. You're in a cold, intimidating courtroom. The prosecution has laid out all the evidence against you. Your bank statements showing overdrafts, the stack of unpaid bills piling up on your kitchen table, the credit card debt that keeps you awake at night, and your history of financial struggles that seems to follow you like a shadow. Every time you've tried and failed to get ahead, financially is being presented as exhibit after exhibit. The jury looks unmoved. The judge appears stern. Everyone in that courtroom seems convinced that you're destined to remain trapped in this cycle of lack forever. Have you ever felt like you're standing trial in the court of your own life with the devastating charge of financial failure hanging over your head? Has this ever happened to you? That feeling of being judged by society, by your family, perhaps even by yourself, for not having enough. That constant anxiety that no matter how hard you work, how many hours you put in, or how many sacrifices you make, money always seems to slip through your fingers like water. What if I told you that there's a single sentence, just one declaration, that could collapse this entire case against you? A simple statement so powerful that when spoken from a place of genuine knowing, it can transform your entire financial reality? Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. It goes against everything you've been taught about wealth creation. It contradicts the hustle culture that tells you to work harder, the manifestation teachers who say you need elaborate visualization practices, and the financial experts who insist you just need better budgeting skills. The truth about attracting wealth isn't what you think. It's not about doing more. It's about being different. It's not about chasing money. It's about embodying a frequency that makes money chase you. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal why you're high. Financial struggles have nothing to do with your work ethic, your intelligence, or even your past choices. I'll show you why those who seem to effortlessly attract abundance aren't just lucky. They're operating from an entirely different state of consciousness than most people. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, let's talk about this life-changing frequency that transforms your relationship with money at its core. It all begins with understanding that in the courtroom of creation, there's only one testimony that truly matters. That testimony is the profound declaration, I am wealthy. It's not a plea, not a wish, not a someday maybe promise to yourself. It's a present tense statement of what is already true in the realm that matters most, your consciousness. Here's the hidden truth most people never fully grasp during their entire journey with money. The external world, your bank account, your job situation, your bills, your debt, has no independent power or existence. None whatsoever. What you perceive as solid, fixed reality is actually just a delayed reflection, a shadow of what you've already declared from the throne of your consciousness. Think of it this way. The material world is like a mirror, faithfully reflecting back the verdicts you've already pronounced within yourself. Your circumstances aren't creating your financial reality. They're merely showing you what you've already created through your deepest assumptions about yourself and your relationship with abundance. This revelation completely transforms how we understand the spiritual mechanics behind wealth creation. When you feel poor inside, desperately trying to claw your way to abundance, through hard work alone, you're actually reinforcing the very frequency that repels money. Your internal poverty becomes your external experience with perfect precision every single time. The mindset shift required here is nothing short of revolutionary. You are not, and never have been, a defendant in the court of life, desperately trying to prove your worthiness to receive prosperity. This fundamental misunderstanding has kept millions trapped in cycles of lack, working harder and harder, while their internal dialogue silently sabotages every effort. The profound truth is that you've been the judge all along. You've been sitting on the bench, pronouncing the verdicts that become your experience. Every thought, every feeling, every assumption about your financial reality has been a gavel strike, setting law into motion. And that law operates with unwavering precision, bringing into your experience exactly what you've decreed from that judicial seat of consciousness. Your transformation begins the moment you reclaim this throne, when you understand that circumstances bow to consciousness, not the other way around. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the operating system of reality itself. The universe has no choice but to conform to your inner declarations, because that's how creation works at its most fundamental level. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining the specific lies we've all been told about money and how they've programmed us to broadcast a frequency of lack without even realizing it. These false beliefs have been so deeply ingrained in our collective psyche that they feel like absolute truth, when in reality, they're nothing more than cultural hypnosis keeping us locked in financial struggle. Write in the comments, "I'm reclaiming my throne," if you're ready to step into this new understanding of your relationship with wealth. From the moment you were old enough to understand language, you've been systematically programmed with a set of beliefs about money that were designed to keep you in a perpetual state of lack. These aren't casual misunderstandings. They're deeply embedded cultural narratives that have shaped your entire relationship with abundance. Think about what you were taught. Money is scarce. There's never enough to go around. You have to fight for your piece of a limited pie. If someone else gets more, that means less for you. You must compete, struggle, sacrifice, and prove your worth. Through endless productivity, your value as a human being is directly tied to your economic output. If you're not producing, you're not valuable. These toxic beliefs weren't given to you with malicious intent. Your parents passed them down after learning them from their parents. Your teachers transmitted them after absorbing them from their teachers. The entire ecosystem of your upbringing reinforced these messages at every turn. This intergenerational transfer of lack consciousness has created a collective mindset that feels like absolute reality when it's actually just shared illusion. The impact of this conditioning runs deep in your psyche. It explains why, despite your best efforts, prosperity feels like an uphill battle. Let's be honest about what you've tried. You've worked overtime until your body ached and your mind went numb. You've taken on second jobs, sacrificing your health, your relationships, your peace of mind. You've cut expenses until there was nothing left to cut, denying yourself even small pleasures that make life worth living. You've followed all the conventional wisdom, created budgets, read financial books, attended seminars, listened to the experts. You've done everything society promised would lead to prosperity. You've checked all the boxes on the responsible adult checklist. And still, that knot in your stomach remains. The anxiety about money persists. The feeling of never quite having enough continues to haunt you. The struggle seems eternal, immovable, almost like your destiny. This persistent struggle reveals the profound revelation at the heart of wealth creation. Effort alone doesn't create abundance. Hard work without the right inner state is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it will never stay full. The journey to financial freedom requires a complete paradigm shift in how you perceive the relationship between consciousness and circumstances. The blueprint for transformation isn't found in working harder. It's discovered in a fundamental reimagining of what money actually is and how it responds to your internal frequency. Let's explore what money truly is beyond the physical symbols we use to represent it. The truth will completely revolutionize how you interact with wealth on every level of your being. Drop a comment saying, "Breaking free from money lies," if you're ready to unlearn these limiting beliefs that have shaped your financial reality. Here's the hidden truth that would collapse the entire economic system if everyone truly understood it. Money is not a reward for labor. It's not something you earn through suffering and sacrifice. It's not tied to your productivity, your output, or even your skill set. These connections we've been taught to see as absolute are actually just cultural agreements, not universal laws. Money, in its essence, is nothing more than a reflection of consciousness. That's all it is. That's all it's ever been. The pieces of paper in your wallet, the numbers in your bank account, they're simply physical manifestations of an inner frequency you're broadcasting into the field of infinite possibilities we call the universe. This revelation transforms our entire approach to wealth creation. It explains why some people seem to effortlessly attract abundance, while others struggle despite working twice as hard. It's not luck or privilege or even talent that ultimately determines financial flow. It's the state of consciousness a person embodies and broadcasts. If you're ready to master the art of abundance consciousness, hit that subscribe button right now. Join our community of conscious creators who are transforming their financial reality through the power of assumption. Wealth doesn't flow to those who grind the hardest or sacrifice the most. It flows naturally to those who assume the state of already being wealthy. The mindset shift here is profound. Instead of trying to acquire money, you must become the person to whom money flows effortlessly. Every moment of every day, you're broadcasting a signal into the invisible substance that fills all space, the creative medium from which all physical reality emerges. When you move through life feeling lack, when that underlying anxiety about money permeates your being, you're sending out a powerful frequency that says, I am without. And the universe, which is nothing if not faithful to your assumptions, delivers more experiences of being without. It must. This isn't cruelty or punishment. It isn't the universe testing you or holding out on you until you prove yourself worthy. It's simply law in operation, as neutral, consistent, and impersonal as gravity. When you drop something, gravity doesn't judge whether you deserve to have it fall or not. It simply responds to the conditions present. The same is true for the law of assumption that governs your financial reality. Your feeling states are the conditions to which this law responds with perfect precision. Most people spend their entire lives fighting against this law without realizing it. They feel poor while trying desperately to become rich. They feel unworthy while hoping to be valued. They feel lack while praying for abundance. And then they wonder why their circumstances never fundamentally change, despite all their efforts and intentions. The transformation begins when you realize that your inner world isn't just influencing your outer world, it's creating it entirely. Your circumstances aren't causing your feelings are causing your circumstances. This complete reversal of understanding is the gateway to financial freedom. Let's examine this principle in action by comparing two merchants in the same marketplace, facing identical external conditions, yet experiencing completely different realities based solely on their inner states. Type, I choose my frequency in the comments if you're beginning to see how your inner state has been creating your financial experience all along. Imagine a frequency, a vibration, that literally makes money chase you instead of you chasing it. This isn't some mystical concept, though it might sound like it to minds conditioned by materialism. It's the natural operating system of reality itself. The frequency that magnetizes wealth isn't what most success gurus have been telling you. It isn't hustling until you're exhausted. It isn't grinding away at work you hate. It isn't sacrificing your present for some promised future abundance that never quite arrives. Those approaches are based on the fundamental misconception that wealth is something you achieve through effort alone. The true money-attracting frequency is a state of being, an inner fulfillment, an unshakable knowing, and a radical self-assumption that you already are the person to whom money flows effortlessly. This distinction between doing and being is everything. Most people are stuck in perpetual doing mode, constantly adding more tasks, strategies, and hustles to their already overwhelming to-do lists. But here's the breakthrough insight. When your inner state is aligned with abundance, you don't need to chase money. It naturally gravitates toward you through what appears to be coincidence, luck, perfect timing, and unexpected opportunities. This isn't magical thinking. It's the mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. This explains why so many popular manifestation techniques ultimately fail to produce lasting results. Most conventional advice tells you to hustle harder, visualize more intensely, or raise your vibration through surface actions like gratitude journals and vision boards. These approaches aren't inherently harmful. They're just incomplete and often exhausting. They put the cart before the horse. They have you doing when what you need to be doing is being. That's why you feel tired. That's why nothing seems to work for long. That's why you experience brief moments of hope followed by crushing disappointment. Because you're operating from the wrong foundation. You're trying to add positive thoughts and actions on top of a foundation of lack consciousness. And that simply doesn't work. It can't work. It's like trying to build a palace on quicksand. The structure may look impressive momentarily, but it inevitably sinks back into the unstable ground beneath it. What I'm teaching you is the opposite approach. Stop trying and start inhabiting. Stop performing abundance like an actor playing a role and start being it at your core. Stop pretending you're wealthy while secretly feeling poor inside, and change your inner conviction so completely that wealth becomes your natural state. When you live from the end, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled so thoroughly that it becomes more real to you than your circumstances, you don't chase money. Money chases you. Opportunities find you. Wealth becomes inevitable, not because you forced it or manipulated the universe, but because you aligned yourself with the state of wealth that already exists in the infinite field of possibility. Let's explore this concept further through the powerful metaphor of two merchants working in the same marketplace, with the same opportunities, but broadcasting entirely different frequencies. Drop "I choose abundance consciousness" in the comments if you're ready to stop chasing and start being the person who naturally attracts wealth. Imagine two actors preparing for the same role. The first actor memorizes his lines, practices his expressions in the mirror, and works diligently on his costume and makeup. When he steps on stage, he performs convincingly, but everyone, including himself, knows it's just a performance. The moment he walks off stage, he removes the costume and returns to his regular identity. The second actor takes a completely different approach. Rather than merely performing the character, he begins to think like the character, feel like the character, and embody the character's essence so completely that the line between performance and reality begins to blur. When he steps on stage, he isn't acting, he's being. And this profound difference is immediately felt by everyone in the audience. This metaphor perfectly illustrates the difference between pretending to be wealthy and truly inhabiting the consciousness of wealth. Most people are like the first actor. They're performing abundance. They say the right affirmations, create vision boards, dress the part, and try to act as if, but deep inside, where it actually matters, they still feel poor. They're pretending while harboring a contradictory internal state. The transformation happens when you become like the second actor, when you inhabit the state of wealth so completely that it's no longer a performance. It's not fake it till you make it. It's not acting as if. It's a genuine shift in identity at the deepest level of your being. You're not trying to convince yourself or others that you're wealthy. You simply are wealthy in the realm where all creation begins, consciousness. This is what it means to live from the end. Most people live from the middle or the beginning. They see themselves as someone trying to become wealthy, someone working toward abundance, someone hoping to eventually reach financial freedom. But living from the end means you assume the feeling of the wish already fulfilled. You live from the perspective of it being done, complete, accomplished, realized. When you genuinely embody this consciousness shift, something remarkable happens. The world rearranges itself to match your inner state. It must. This isn't wishful thinking. It's universal law. Opportunities that were invisible to you suddenly become obvious. People are mysteriously drawn to help you. Resources appear from unexpected directions. What seemed impossible becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The key insight here is that you must feel wealthy before you see wealth in your outer circumstances. Most people have this backward. They think they'll feel abundant once they have the money, once the bills are paid, once they achieve financial freedom. But that's not how creation works. The feeling comes first, then the manifestation. The inner state precedes the outer experience, always, without exception. This principle turns conventional wisdom on its head. Instead of chasing money through endless striving, you become a magnet that naturally draws wealth to you. You don't need to know how it will happen. The how takes care of itself when you align with the end result in consciousness. Let's explore a real-world example that demonstrates this principle in action. The story of someone who spent years begging the universe for money, only to discover that his very approach was creating more lack. Comment below with "Living from the end now" if you're ready to stop chasing money and start embodying the consciousness of wealth that naturally attracts abundance. Before we go any further, I need you to understand something crucial, something that will determine whether what I'm sharing actually transforms your financial reality or simply becomes another interesting concept you heard once in a video. This is not theory. This is not wishful thinking. This is not some new age philosophy that sounds nice in a workshop but falls apart in the real world. This is law, immutable, unchanging, absolute, as reliable as gravity, as dependable as the sun rising in the east. This is the way creation works. It's the way it has always worked. It's the way it will always work. I've witnessed this law operate not just in my own journey with wealth, but in the lives of countless others who understood and applied these principles. People who were drowning in debt with seemingly no way out. People on the verge of losing everything they'd worked for. People who had tried every conventional approach and failed. When they finally grasped this law, when they changed their assumption and shifted their consciousness, their external circumstances transformed in ways that seemed miraculous to those who didn't understand the operating system of reality. But there was no miracle. There was only law in operation. There was only consciousness creating reality the way it always has, the way it always will. To illustrate this principle in action, let me share the tale of two merchants. Imagine them both working in the same bustling marketplace. The sun beats down equally on their stalls, which sell similar goods of equal quality. The same potential customers walk by them both. The same economy affects them both. The same opportunities are technically available to both. On the surface, these two men appear to be in identical circumstances. To the casual observer, there's nothing to distinguish one from the other. They're just two merchants among many trying to make their way in the world. Don't miss a single insight on your journey to financial freedom. Subscribe now and be the first to receive powerful techniques that will completely transform your relationship with money. But watch them closely. Observe how they move through their days. Listen to their inner dialogues. Feel the energy they emit, and you'll begin to see why their lives are so dramatically different from each other. The first merchant wakes each morning in dread. Before his feet even touch the floor, his mind is already calculating, worrying, anticipating lack. His first thoughts every day are, how much do I have? How much do I need? Will it be enough? What if customers don't come today? What if my competitors undercut my prices? His consciousness is a storm of anxiety that never ceases. He approaches each transaction as a battle to be won, each customer as someone to be squeezed for every possible coin. He watches his competitors with bitter envy, wondering why fortune smiles on them and not on him. What he doesn't realize, what he cannot see, is that his inner state is broadcasting a powerful frequency of lack and desperation into the field of infinite possibility. And the universe, being the perfect mirror that it is simply reflecting that frequency back to him with absolute precision. Let's now turn our attention to the second merchant and discover what makes his experience so radically different, despite facing the exact same external conditions. Drop law, not theory in the comments if you're beginning to see how this immutable principle has been operating in your financial life all along. The first merchant's relationship with money is one of constant tension and anxiety. Watch him as he counts his coins obsessively, fingers rifling through his purse, checking and rechecking as if the act of counting could somehow multiply what's there. It's not prudence driving this behavior. It's fear. Raw, unrelenting fear that there will never be enough. He haggles over every penny, not from wisdom or good business sense, but from desperate clawing panic. Each transaction becomes a battlefield where the only victory is extracting the maximum possible coins from every customer. He views each interaction not as an opportunity to serve, but as a chance to extract, to take, to hoard. His eyes follow customers with suspicion, always wondering if they're trying to cheat him or if they'll walk away without buying. The thought of a missed sale fills him with dread, not just disappointment, but existential terror. Every potential customer becomes a lifeline he must grasp at any cost. What's truly driving all this behavior is a core belief buried so deep in his consciousness that he doesn't even recognize it as a belief anymore. It feels like reality itself. The world is scarce. There's never enough. Money is limited. And if someone else has it, that means he doesn't. Wealth is a finite pie, and every slice taken by another is a slice he'll never taste. This belief system creates a powerful, energetic field around him that's palpable to everyone who enters it. Customers sense his desperation the moment they approach his stall. They feel it emanating from him like heat from a furnace, like a smell they can't quite place, but that makes them deeply uncomfortable. It's in his voice when he calls out to them, that slight edge of pleading, that undertone of need. It's in his eyes when they stop to look at his goods, that hungry, desperate look that makes them want to look away. It's in the very air around his stall, thick with anxiety and fear, and it pushes them away. They don't want to be near that energy. They don't want to feel that neediness grasping at them, pulling at them, demanding something from them. So they move on. They buy from someone else. They tell themselves the goods weren't quite right or the price wasn't fair. But the real truth is simpler and more devastating. They felt his desperation, and they fled from it. Even when a sale seems certain, watch what happens. A customer is ready to buy, hand literally reaching for their purse, coins almost in his palm. And then something shifts. The customer hesitates, changes their mind, says they'll think about it, or be back later. The merchant is left wondering what happened, what he did wrong, why fortune always seems to turn against him at the crucial moment. This pattern repeats endlessly in his experience. His wealth drains like water, through open fingers. No matter how hard he works, how many hours he puts in, how carefully he plans and strategizes, he struggles. He's always just barely getting by, always one bad day away from disaster, always afraid, always anxious, always grasping, and never holding. And here's the tragic irony of his situation. The harder he tries, the worse it gets. The more desperately he pursues money, the more it eludes him. The tighter he grips, the more it slips through his fingers. Not because of bad luck or an unjust universe, but because of an immutable law. Consciousness creates reality. Assumption determines experience. The frequency you broadcast is the frequency you receive. Let's now contrast this with the second merchant, who operates in an entirely different state of consciousness despite facing identical external conditions. Comment: I release the grip of fear if you recognize any of these patterns of scarcity consciousness in your own relationship with money. The most heartbreaking aspect of the first merchant's predicament is that he's completely blind to the real cause of his struggles. When we observe him at the end of another difficult day, sitting alone with his meager earnings, listen to what he tells himself. It's the economy's fault. The market is down. Times are hard for everyone. Or it's his competitors' fault. They must be using unfair tactics, undercutting prices, stealing his customers. Perhaps it's the customers themselves. They're too cheap, too fickle, unwilling to recognize quality when they see it. On particularly dark days, he blames his luck, as though luck were some external force beyond his influence. Some people are just born lucky, he mutters. I drew the short straw in life. He might blame fate, the stars, the universe itself, anything and everything except the actual source of his circumstances. This pattern of external blame creates a perfect closed loop of self-fulfilling prophecy. By refusing to look within, by failing to examine his own consciousness as the creative force behind his experience, he remains trapped in the very frequency that's generating his struggles. This insight reveals the profound wisdom in that ancient philosophical directive to know thyself. Without self-awareness, transformation remains impossible. Now, walk with me to the other side of the marketplace, where we find our second merchant. The contrast couldn't be more striking. This merchant wakes each morning in a state of peace. The sun rises, and his first thought is not fear, but gratitude, not anxiety, but simple joy at being alive, at having another day to experience life's adventure. He rises without the weight of financial worry pressing on his chest. He doesn't immediately check his finances or start calculating and planning from a place of panic. He's simply present, peaceful, content, resting in a state of being that doesn't require external validation. What makes this so remarkable is that his external circumstances are identical to the first merchant. Same marketplace, same economic conditions, same competition, same potential customers walking by. There's nothing in his external world that differentiates his situation, but his consciousness is entirely different. And consciousness is everything. This merchant assumes, without question or doubt or hesitation, that abundance is his natural state. This isn't something he tries to believe. It's not an affirmation he repeats to convince himself. It's not something he hopes might be true someday if he works hard enough. It's a knowing so fundamental that it requires no thought, like knowing the sky is above and the earth below. It's as certain to him as the ground beneath his feet or the air he breathes. He knows he's provided for the way you know the sun will rise tomorrow. It's not hope. It's not faith in the religious sense of believing something you can't verify. It's simple, unshakable knowing. Abundance is his birthright. Prosperity is his nature. Wealth flows to him because that's the natural order of things. This profound difference in consciousness creates an entirely different energy around his stall, a completely different experience of the exact same marketplace. Let's observe how this consciousness manifests in his daily interactions and the remarkable results it produces. Write 2 merchants, same market, in the comments if you're starting to see how consciousness, not circumstances, determines your financial experience. Watch how differently this second merchant interacts with his customers. Unlike the first merchant who pursues potential buyers with desperate energy, this merchant embodies the principle of service. When customers approach his stall, he doesn't pounce on them as though they represent his financial salvation. He greets them with genuine warmth, not the forced friendliness of someone trying to make a sale, but authentic human connection. He listens, truly listens, to what they need. He asks thoughtful questions to understand their specific situation. He offers honest advice based on his expertise, creating a foundation of trust that transcends the single transaction. Most remarkably, he frequently sends customers to other merchants who might have something better suited to their needs. This behavior would seem insane to the first merchant. "You're sending away business?" he would ask incredulously. "You're helping your competitors?" But the second merchant understands a profound truth. Abundance isn't diminished by sharing. In fact, it multiplies. The second merchant gives freely, generously, with an open hand and an open heart. When a customer is short a few coins, he doesn't hesitate or calculate whether it's worth the potential loss. He simply says, "Take it, pay me when you can." Sometimes he even says, "Just take it, it's yours." And here's what the first merchant could never comprehend. They always come back, always. They pay what they owe, often with interest no one requested. They bring their friends. They speak highly of him throughout the marketplace. They become loyal customers who return again and again. What creates this extraordinary response? What invisible force is at work here? It's the power of consciousness made manifest. People feel something in the second merchant's presence that goes far beyond the goods he sells. They feel his abundance. They feel his peace. They feel his certainty, his security, his complete freedom from desperate need. And they're magnetically drawn to that energy. They want to bathe in it. They want to take some of it home with them. They recognize, perhaps unconsciously, that this merchant offers something far more valuable than his merchandise. He offers a glimpse of what it feels like to live in alignment with abundance. The revelation here is profound. The second merchant's financial success isn't happening despite his generosity. It's happening because of it. His abundance isn't occurring despite his willingness to direct customers elsewhere when appropriate. It's occurring because of it. These behaviors aren't random personality traits. They're natural expressions of his abundance consciousness. This illustrates a paradigm shift in our understanding of wealth creation. Your external actions don't create your internal state. Your internal state creates your external actions. And those actions, flowing from the correct consciousness, naturally attract more of what matches that consciousness. The journey of transformation begins when you recognize which merchant you've been embodying in your relationship with money. Have you been operating from fear, anxiety, and a sense of lack, or from peace, certainty, and a knowing of abundance? The beauty is that regardless of your past pattern, you can choose differently, starting right now. Share abundance through service in the comments if you're inspired by the second merchant's approach to wealth creation, through genuine service rather than desperate chasing. Observe the second merchant even more closely now. Watch how he moves through the marketplace. There's something distinctive in his very presence, a quality that's immediately noticeable, yet difficult to define. He walks with an unhurried confidence, stands with a grounded certainty, speaks with a clear, calm voice that commands attention without demanding it. The revelation here is profound. He moves through the world as though he's already wealthy, not as though he's trying to become wealthy, not as though he's working toward wealth, not as though wealth is some future state he hopes to achieve if he hustles hard enough or gets lucky enough, but as though he already is wealthy. Present tense, already accomplished, already achieved. This isn't pretense or performance. This isn't some fake-it-till-you-make-it strategy. This is genuine embodiment. He has assumed wealth so completely, so thoroughly, so absolutely that it's not something he does. It's something he is. The state of abundance permeates every cell of his being. It infuses his voice, his gestures, his decisions, his interactions. It's in the way he walks, the way he stands, the way he looks at the world with eyes that see abundance everywhere. Everything about him broadcasts the frequency of wealth, not material possessions. Those are just external symbols that may or may not accurately reflect inner states. He broadcasts the essence of wealth: peace, certainty, freedom, generosity, ease. These qualities radiate from him like light from the sun, natural, effortless, inevitable. The impact of this embodiment on others is magnetic. Watch how people are drawn to him like iron to a magnet, like moths to flame, like pilgrims to a sacred shrine. They don't fully understand why. If you ask them to explain it, they couldn't articulate the reason clearly. They might fumble for words and say, "There's just something about him. I just feel good in his presence." What they're sensing, though they lack the vocabulary to name it, is the unmistakable presence of a person who knows they're provided for, who knows they're abundant, who knows the universe has their back. It's an energy of such profound ease and certainty that it's almost contagious. Being near it makes others feel more abundant themselves. This creates a remarkable cascade of effects. People trust him instinctively. They want to do business with him. They want to help him succeed. They want to see him prosper, not because he's manipulating them or using some clever sales tactics, but because his consciousness creates a field that naturally attracts these responses. The blueprint for transformation is written in this contrast between our two merchants. The circumstances didn't create their experiences. Their consciousness did. The marketplace didn't determine their financial reality. Their inner state did. The economy didn't dictate their prosperity or lack. Their assumption did. And here's where this ancient wisdom meets your modern life. You are one of these merchants. Every single day, you walk into the marketplace of life broadcasting a frequency. The critical question is, which frequency are you broadcasting? Are you the first merchant, gripping tightly from fear and scarcity? Or are you the second, giving freely from abundance and certainty? Let's explore a real-world example of how this principle transformed someone's life. Someone who spent years begging the universe for money before discovering he was praying from exactly the wrong state of consciousness. Type, "I choose to embody wealth" in the comments if you're ready to stop performing abundance and start truly inhabiting it at the cellular level. What truly sets the second merchant apart is the way opportunities seem to materialize in his path as if by divine arrangement. Watch closely as people approach him with partnership offers he never solicited. Notice how customers spontaneously recommend him to friends and family. Observe how other merchants in the marketplace, who might logically be considered competitors, regularly send business his way. This isn't random luck or coincidence. It's the natural consequence of his consciousness. Opportunities appear from unexpected directions, from sources he couldn't have predicted, through connections he didn't strategically cultivate. They emerge organically, naturally, without manipulation or calculated networking. Efforts. Money flows to him like water finding its natural course, like rivers flowing downhill, following the path of least resistance. It comes easily, without strain or struggle. He doesn't chase it, it finds him. He doesn't grasp for it, it offers itself. He doesn't hoard it, it multiplies in his experience. This effortless attraction might create the illusion that he's somehow working less than the first merchant. But here's the fascinating truth. If you counted the hours, if you measured their labor with a stopwatch, you might discover that the second merchant works just as many hours, perhaps even more. The critical difference isn't in the quantity of work, but in the consciousness behind it. He works from a state of already having assumed wealth. He's already claimed abundance in his imagination. He's already living from the end of prosperity. The wealth is already his in the only realm that truly matters, the realm of consciousness, the realm where all creation takes place. And because the outer world is only ever a shadow of the inner, because external reality has no independent existence and is only ever an effect, never a cause, it has no choice but to conform to his inner conviction. This isn't magical thinking. It's the mechanics of how reality operates. The revelation here transforms our entire approach to creating wealth. It's not about how many hours you put in, how hard you hustle, or how much you sacrifice. It's about the state from which those actions emerge. Two people can perform identical actions, work the same hours, offer the same goods, interact with the same customers, and experience dramatically different results based solely on their inner state. This insight liberates us from the exhausting belief that we must earn abundance through endless striving. It reveals that prosperity isn't something we achieve through effort alone. It's something we assume through consciousness first. The doing follows the being, not the other way, around. Imagine how this principle might transform your own relationship with money. What if your financial breakthrough isn't found in working harder, but in shifting your state? What if abundance is already yours in the infinite field of possibility, and your only task is to align your consciousness with that reality? This is the profound difference between manifesting from lack versus manifesting from abundance. Most people spend their lives trying to attract money while feeling poor, an approach that guarantees continued struggle. The transformation happens when you flip the equation. Feel abundant first, and then watch as your external reality rearranges itself to match that inner state. Comment: working from abundance. If you're ready to stop struggling from lack consciousness and start creating from a state of already having what you desire. Let me put this insight into immediate, practical context for your own life. Every single day, from the moment you wake until you fall asleep, you're broadcasting a signal into the universe. You're emitting a frequency that's as unique and specific as a radio station. Every thought that crosses your mind, every emotion that flows through your body, every assumption you hold about yourself and your relationship with money, all of it forms part of this broadcast. And the universe, which operates with perfect precision, with absolute fidelity to law, responds to that broadcast with exact, mirror-like accuracy. It doesn't judge. Your signal as good or bad, right or wrong, worthy or unworthy. It simply receives what you're sending and reflects it back to you in the form of experiences, opportunities, circumstances, and yes, financial outcomes. The profound revelation that can transform your entire relationship with money is this. You get to choose which frequency you broadcast. This isn't determined by fate or genetics, or your upbringing, or your current bank balance. It's determined by your consciousness in this moment. And that's something you have complete authority over. You must decide, with clarity and conviction, which merchant you're going to be. Will you continue broadcasting the frequency of lack, scarcity, anxiety, and desperate need? Or will you shift your consciousness to broadcast abundance, certainty, peace, and the knowing that you're already provided for? This decision is yours alone. No one can make it for you. No guru, no teacher, no mentor can do this inner work on your behalf. They can only point to the door. You must walk through it. What makes this shift challenging for most people is that they don't recognize the fear patterns they've been operating from. These patterns are so deeply ingrained, so thoroughly normalized by society, that they feel like responsible adulthood rather than lack consciousness. You've been taught, through subtle and not so subtle messaging, that worry is responsibility, that constantly calculating, planning, and stressing about money is what prudent, mature people do. You've been conditioned to believe that anxiety about finances is just being realistic, that fear is wisdom, that tight-fisted control is good stewardship. These beliefs weren't given to you with malicious intent. They were passed down by people who genuinely thought they were teaching you how to survive in a world they perceived as scarce and competitive. But these very beliefs, these patterns of fear and lack, are what's strangling your supply. The tight grip with which you're holding on to every dollar is precisely what's preventing dollars from flowing to you. The fear that drives you to obsess over money is creating the very lack you fear. It's a perfect, closed-loop system that perpetuates itself until you consciously break the cycle. Your anxiety about not having enough is broadcasting "I don't have enough" into the field of infinite possibility. And that field is responding with perfect accuracy, giving you more experiences of not having enough. The pathway to transformation begins with recognizing these patterns in yourself, seeing with unflinching honesty how you've been operating as the first merchant without even realizing it. Let's examine a real-life example of someone who discovered this truth the hard way. A man who spent years desperately praying for money while unconsciously repelling it through his very approach to manifestation. Comment: changing my broadcast if you're starting to recognize how your frequency might be, creating the very financial circumstances you're trying to escape. Let me share a profound truth that completely upends conventional wisdom about wealth creation. The law of assumption, the operating system of reality itself, doesn't reward effort. It doesn't care how many hours you work, how much you sacrifice, or how disciplined your financial habits are. It doesn't keep score of your hustle or applaud your grinding. It doesn't give extra points for suffering or struggling. The law responds only to your assumption, your consciousness, your inner state of being. Not what you're doing, but who you're being while you do it. This is why two people can take identical actions and experience radically different results. Their doing might be the same, but their being is worlds apart. Think about the countless stories of people who work 3 jobs, sacrifice everything, follow all the right financial advice, and still struggle, while others who seem to put in half the effort attract abundance easily. The conventional explanation points to privilege, luck, connections, or talent. But these explanations miss the fundamental truth. Consciousness creates reality, always, without exception. The first merchant and the second merchant in our story might work the same number of hours, perform the same tasks, sell the same goods, but their inner states are completely different, and it's the inner state that the universe responds to with perfect precision. Let me offer a metaphor that illuminates the mechanics of creation. Your consciousness is the marketplace itself, not just a merchant within it, but the entire environment in which all transactions occur. Your assumptions are the merchants, the active, dynamic forces operating within that marketplace. And everything external, your bank account, your home, your job, your financial circumstances, is merely a reflection of what you've assumed internally. This perspective completely transforms our approach to manifestation. Most people are trying to change the reflection without changing what's being reflected. They're attempting to manipulate the shadow without adjusting the object casting the shadow. They're focusing on the effect while ignoring the cause. When you truly grasp that your external reality has no independent existence, that it's only ever a projection of your consciousness, you stop fighting with circumstances and start working with the creative power of your assumptions. You realize that changing your bank balance directly is impossible, but changing the consciousness that created that bank balance is entirely within your power. Change the assumption, and the reflection must change. It has no choice. It never did. Just as a mirror cannot show you anything other than what stands before it, your external reality cannot manifest anything other than what you've assumed in consciousness. This isn't metaphorical or symbolic language. It's the literal mechanics of how creation operates. This insight liberates you from the exhausting belief that you must struggle and strive and suffer to earn abundance. It reveals that prosperity isn't something you achieve through relentless doing. It's something you allow through aligned being. The pathway to wealth isn't paved with more action. It's illuminated by a profound shift in consciousness. Let's look at a real-life example that demonstrates this principle in action. The story of someone I'll call Thomas, whose journey from poverty to prosperity came not through working harder, but through a fundamental revolution in his relationship with abundance. Share. Consciousness creates reality in the comments. If you're beginning to see how your inner state, not your outer actions, determines your financial experience. Thomas's story offers a powerful revelation about the mechanics of manifestation. He spent years, literal years of his life, begging God for money. And when I say begging, I mean exactly that. Desperate, pleading, anguished prayers that came from a place of profound need and fear. Every morning upon waking, his first thoughts were prayers for financial rescue. Every night before sleeping, he would lie in darkness, pleading for abundance. Throughout his day, while walking, working, eating, driving, a constant stream of petitions flowed from his consciousness. Please God, please help me. Please send me money. Please rescue me from this situation. Please don't let me fail. Please don't let me lose everything. But Thomas didn't stop at prayer. He was a dedicated student of manifestation. He visualized with remarkable discipline, spending hours creating elaborate mental scenarios of wealth flowing to him. He imagined checking his bank account and seeing large balances. He visualized opening his mailbox to find unexpected checks. He pictured people calling him with news of inheritances, job offers, and financial windfalls. He created vision boards filled with images of the house he wanted, the car he dreamed of driving, the lifestyle he hoped to live. He placed these boards strategically throughout his home, where he would see them multiple times daily. He followed all the instructions from manifestation books and videos with meticulous attention to detail. His affirmation practice was equally devoted. Every morning without fail, he would stand before his mirror repeating phrases like, "I am wealthy. Money flows to me easily. I am a powerful money magnet. I attract abundance from all directions." He said these words thousands of times over the years, with all the emotion and conviction he could muster. Yet despite this dedication, despite doing everything the manifestation teachers advised, his circumstances didn't improve. In fact, they steadily worsened. Bills piled up on his kitchen table like physical manifestations of his failure, each envelope with its red "Final Notice" stamp a humiliating reminder of his inability to create the abundance he sought. Opportunities that initially seemed promising would mysteriously evaporate the moment he reached for them. He would hear about a perfect job opening, rush to apply, and discover it had just been filled. He would have a brilliant business idea, begin developing it, and then watch someone else launch the identical concept before he could act. Most painful of all were the deals that fell through at the last moment. He would be on the verge of a financial breakthrough, a sale about to close, a contract about to be signed, money almost in hand, when suddenly, inexplicably, everything would collapse. The customer would change their mind. The client would go with someone else. The opportunity would vanish like smoke. Meanwhile, he watched others around him prosper, with seemingly less effort, less knowledge of manifestation principles, less spiritual discipline. Friends who never created vision boards somehow got promotions. Colleagues who didn't practice affirmations landed lucrative contracts. People who never seemed to worry about money somehow had plenty of it. The contrast between his dedicated efforts and his deteriorating circumstances created a spiritual crisis that eventually led him to the doorstep of a teacher who would reveal the profound misunderstanding at the heart of his approach. Drop "praying from lack" in the comments if you've ever found yourself, like Thomas, working hard on manifestation techniques while unconsciously broadcasting a frequency of desperation. One evening, after receiving yet another disconnect notice, this time for his electricity, Thomas reached a breaking point. After staring at his mounting bills, feeling that familiar knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach, he reached out to a teacher who had been recommended by a mutual acquaintance. When Thomas arrived for their meeting, his physical appearance told the story his pride wouldn't allow him to fully articulate. His face was drawn, the skin tight over, his cheekbones like a man who hadn't been sleeping well for months. His eyes were hollow, empty, with dark circles beneath them, speaking of countless nights lying awake, calculating, worrying, wondering how he would survive another month. His shoulders hunched forward as though carrying an invisible weight too heavy for one person to bear, as if the burden of his financial struggle had become a physical thing pressing down on him. He looked like a soldier who had been at war too long, who had fought too many battles and lost them all, who had nothing left to give. For a long moment after sitting down, Thomas said nothing. He simply stared at his hands, turning them over repeatedly as though searching for answers in his palms. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw, stripped of all pretense and pride. "What am I doing wrong?" he asked, with such anguish and desperate need that the question hung in the air like a cry for help. "I'm doing everything they tell you to do," he continued, words tumbling out in a rush of frustration. "I'm praying multiple times a day. I'm visualizing exactly the way the books say to do it. I'm affirming constantly. I've cut ties with negative people. I've done feng shui. I've tried crystals. I've read all the books. I've watched all the videos. I've taken courses that cost money I didn't have. And nothing works. Nothing changes. If anything, it's getting worse." The breakthrough moment came not from offering Thomas another technique or strategy to add to his already exhausting spiritual practice. Instead, he was asked a simple yet profound question that would reveal the fundamental misunderstanding at the heart of his approach. "Thomas, when you pray for money, when you visualize, when you say your affirmations, how do you feel? What's the feeling in your body, in your chest, in your gut? What emotion is present?" The question caught him off guard. No one had ever asked him that before. He'd been given countless techniques, methods, and practices, but no one had ever inquired about his internal state while performing them. After a moment of genuine reflection, he answered with painful honesty. "I feel desperate," he admitted, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "I feel like I don't have it, like I need it so badly I can barely breathe, like if it doesn't come soon, really soon, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'll survive." His voice broke as he continued. "I feel scared. Terrified, actually. Anxious, like I'm running out of time, like I'm drowning and money is air and I can't breathe without it, and I'm going under and nobody's coming to save me. In that raw confession lay the complete diagnosis, the full explanation for why years of spiritual practice had produced no results. In one moment of brutal honesty, he revealed the fundamental flaw in his entire approach to manifestation. Comment: the feeling is everything if you're beginning to see how the emotion behind your manifestation practices might be more important than the techniques themselves. Exactly, came the response, with the kind of clarity that cuts through years of confusion in an instant. You've just revealed everything. You're praying from the wrong place, Thomas. You're visualizing from the wrong state. You're affirming from the wrong consciousness. The revelation was simple yet profound. You're praying as a beggar. And a beggar will always receive a beggar's portion. Nothing more, nothing less. This single insight illuminated the fundamental misunderstanding that had kept Thomas trapped in cycles of lack, despite his devoted spiritual practice. The universe doesn't hear words. It doesn't see vision boards. It doesn't count affirmations. It registers your feeling state. It responds to your consciousness, not to the prayers you speak, not to the images you create, not to the words you repeat, but to the vibration you embody while doing these things. Your feeling is your prayer. Your state is your request. Your assumption is your creation. This truth turned Thomas's entire approach to manifestation upside down. All this time, while his lips were saying, "I am wealthy," his consciousness was broadcasting, "I am desperate, I am lacking, I am without." Thomas resisted at first, as we all do when confronted with a truth that challenges our fundamental understanding. "But I don't have it," he protested. "That's the whole point. That's why I'm praying. How can I not feel desperate when I genuinely need the money? If I already had it, I wouldn't need to visualize or affirm or do any of this. That's the whole point of manifestation, to get what you don't have." This objection reveals the trap that ensnares so many seekers on the manifestation path. The belief that we must feel desperate when we genuinely need something, that we can only feel abundant after we have abundance, creates a closed loop of lack that can never be escaped. Through external means, the paradigm shift that would transform Thomas's life came in a simple directive that challenged everything he'd been doing. Stop asking. Start thanking. Stop trying to get money. Start being the man who already has it. This wasn't about pretending or engaging in magical thinking. It was about recognizing a fundamental truth about creation. Imagination is the only reality. The outer world, the world of circumstances, bank accounts, and bills, is just a shadow of inner convictions. "Don't pray for wealth," came the instruction. "Pray from wealth. Don't visualize receiving abundance. Visualize already having it. Assume it's already yours, already accomplished, already done, already a fact, and feel it as though it's already real. Let that be your frequency, your signal, your broadcast. Let that be your prayer." The shift required was radical, moving from a consciousness of trying to get to a consciousness of already having, from a state of becoming to a state of being. Instead of approaching the universe as a beggar pleading for scraps, Thomas needed to approach it as a king acknowledging his kingdom. This represents the quantum leap in understanding that separates those who struggle despite their knowledge of manifestation principles from those who manifest with seemingly effortless grace. Write "From begging to blessing" in the comments if you're ready to make this fundamental shift in how you approach your relationship with abundance. Thomas still struggled with this concept at first. How could he possibly feel wealthy when his bills were piling up? How could he thank God for abundance when his bank account was nearly empty? It seemed delusional, dishonest, even disrespectful to reality itself. But the deeper wisdom being shared was revolutionary. Imagination isn't just fantasy or wishful thinking. It's the primary reality from which all physical experience emerges. Everything external, everything visible, everything tangible is just a shadow, an effect, a delayed reflection of what has already been established in consciousness. The outer world, your circumstances, your bank account, the bills on your table, is nothing more than a photograph of your previous inner convictions. It's old news. It's yesterday's assumptions made visible. It's the past materialized. If you change the assumption, the photograph must change. The image must conform to the new negative, because consciousness is the cause, and circumstances are merely the effect. This understanding turns conventional wisdom completely upside down. Most people look at their empty bank account and feel poor because of it. They believe their circumstances are creating their feeling state. But the truth is exactly opposite. Their feeling state created their circumstances. And if they continue feeling poor while looking at that bank account, they're simply perpetuating the cycle, programming themselves deeper into poverty with every anxious glance at their finances. The revolution in consciousness that transforms financial reality begins with this profound reversal. You don't feel abundant because you have money. Money comes because you feel abundant first. The inner state precedes and creates the outer reality, always, without exception. With this understanding as his foundation, Thomas began a completely different practice. Instead of his desperate prayers and frantic visualizations, he embraced a much simpler, yet more powerful approach. Each night before sleep, that golden time when the subconscious mind is most receptive to impression, he would lie quietly in bed and gently, without strain or effort, imagine his bank account full. He didn't force the image or struggle to make it vivid. He simply rested in the scene naturally, seeing the numbers that would represent financial security. But more importantly, he felt what it would feel like to see those numbers. The profound relief, the deep security, the peace, the freedom, the simple ease of knowing all his needs were met. He allowed himself to experience these emotions fully, as though they were already his present reality. And then came the crucial shift. Instead of begging God to make this happen someday, he thanked God for it as already accomplished, already real, already done. "Thank you," he would say, speaking from his heart rather than just his lips. "Thank you that I am provided for. Thank you that I am abundant. Thank you that all my needs are met. Thank you that I am secure." This wasn't pretending or lying to himself. It was aligning with a deeper reality, the reality that already exists in the infinite field of possibility, the reality that becomes accessible when consciousness shifts from lack to abundance. Share. Imagination creates reality in the comments. If you're ready to stop seeing your imagination as mere fantasy and start using it as the creative force it truly is. What happened next in Thomas's life defies conventional explanation, but aligns perfectly with the laws of consciousness we've been exploring. Within just 3 weeks of beginning this new practice, not 3 months, as had been cautiously suggested might be possible, something remarkable shifted in his external world. A business opportunity emerged seemingly out of nowhere. Someone he had worked with years earlier, a person he hadn't thought about in ages, contacted him unexpectedly with a substantial project offer. The synchronicity was striking. The payment for this project was exactly what he needed to cover his most pressing bills, the very ones keeping him awake at night. But that was just the beginning of the transformation. During the same 3-week period, a friend who had borrowed money from him 5 years earlier, a debt Thomas had completely written off and forgotten about, called him one evening. "I know it's been years," the friend said, "and I know you probably thought you'd never see this money again, but I finally have the means to pay you back. This debt has been weighing on me, and I need to make it right." The friend sent the full amount plus interest Thomas had never requested or expected. Then came perhaps the most unexpected manifestation of all. Thomas received a letter from the tax authorities, the kind of envelope that would have previously triggered panic and dread. When he opened it with trembling hands, he discovered they had made an error on his taxes from 3 years prior. They had overcharged him, and now they were sending a substantial refund, enough to cover several more of his pressing financial obligations. The revelation in this rapid sequence of events wasn't just that money appeared. It was that it came from directions Thomas couldn't have predicted or planned for, through avenues his conscious mind never could have orchestrated, through timing so perfect it defied coincidence. He wasn't working harder during those 3 weeks. In fact, he had pulled back from the frantic striving that had characterized his previous approach to money. The only thing that had changed was his consciousness. Within 3 months, Thomas's entire financial situation had transformed. Not overnight in some magical instant windfall, but steadily, naturally, as though the universe was simply reorganizing itself around his new assumption, rearranging circumstances to match his inner state of abundance. By 6 months, something that had seemed impossible had happened. He was completely out of debt and actually saving money for the first time in his adult life. By the 1-year mark, Thomas had more money than he'd ever had before. His income had increased from multiple sources. Opportunities continued to flow to him without desperate chasing. His business grew. But more importantly, and this is what truly completed his transformation, he had peace. He had security not derived from external circumstances, but from inner knowing. He had freedom not because his bank account showed a certain number, but because his consciousness had shifted from lack to abundance. The journey Thomas experienced represents the hidden path to wealth that most financial experts never discuss. It's not about strategies, techniques, or even actions, though aligned action naturally emerges from the right state of consciousness. It's about the fundamental state from which all manifestation springs. Comment: manifestation in motion. If you're seeing how a shift in consciousness creates a corresponding shift in external reality through channels we could never consciously orchestrate. Now I want to share with you the practical blueprint for transformation, the specific practices that will help you shift from lack consciousness to abundance consciousness. These aren't complicated techniques requiring hours of your time. They're simple, powerful practices that work directly with the mechanics of consciousness we've been exploring. The first practice is what I call the nightly embodiment ritual. Every night before sleep, you have a golden window of opportunity that most people completely miss. Scientists know that the hypnagogic state, that drowsy transition between wakefulness and sleep, is when your subconscious mind is most receptive to impression. This is when you program your inner world most effectively. Lie comfortably in bed, close your eyes, and as that drowsy feeling washes over you, enter into the feeling of wealth. Don't visualize wanting money. That's lack consciousness. Don't visualize receiving money. That's assuming you don't have it. Instead, imagine checking your bank account and feeling completely satisfied with what you see. Imagine paying bills with ease, without anxiety. Feel the peace, the security, the freedom that comes with knowing you're provided for. Make this feeling as vivid and real as possible. Engage all your senses. What would you hear if you were wealthy? What would you see? What would you touch? Stay in this state as you drift off to sleep. Let it be the last thing in your consciousness before dreams take you. You're literally programming your subconscious while you sleep. The second practice is the I am wealthy decree. Throughout your day, as often as you remember, silently declare to yourself, I am wealthy. Not, I will be wealthy, or I'm working toward wealth, but present tense, already accomplished. Your rational mind will resist at first, pointing to evidence of lack in your experience. Ignore it. That evidence is just the old photograph, the delayed reflection of past consciousness. You're creating a new negative, and the photograph will develop in time. The third practice is daily revision of lack-based moments. At the end of each day, identify moments where you felt lack, fear, or scarcity. Maybe you saw something you wanted but thought, I can't afford that. Maybe you checked your account and felt anxiety. Find those moments and mentally revise them. Replay them in your imagination, but this time, rewrite them. See yourself looking at the price tag and feeling comfortable that you can afford it. See yourself checking your account and feeling satisfied with what you see. The fourth practice is living from the end, embodying the wealthy person now before external circumstances change. How does a wealthy person walk, speak, make decisions. They move with ease and confidence. They value themselves. They don't apologize for existing. Start embodying these qualities now. When you enter a store, don't walk in feeling less than. Walk in feeling abundant, feeling equal to anyone there. You don't have to buy anything. Just feel like you could if you wanted to. Type 4 steps to freedom in the comments if you're ready to implement these practical steps toward financial liberation. You've now discovered the hidden frequency that makes money chase you instead of you chasing it. This isn't some complicated secret that requires years to master. It's a simple shift in consciousness that's available to you right now, this very moment. I share these insights because I've witnessed their transformative power, not just in my own life, but in the lives of countless others who were once trapped in cycles of lack and struggle. When you begin to apply these principles consistently, you'll experience a freedom that goes far beyond your bank account, a liberation that affects every aspect of your existence. If this message resonated with something deep inside you, if you felt that spark of recognition that says, "This is truth," I'd love to hear from you. Drop "This frequency changed everything" in the comments if you're committed to shifting from lack consciousness to abundance consciousness starting today. I create these videos to build a community of conscious creators who understand the true nature of reality and how to work with it rather than against it. If you'd like to continue this journey with me, hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll know immediately when I release new content on manifesting the life you truly desire. If you found value in what we explored today, a simple like on this video helps others discover these transformative principles too. There's a video right here that takes these principles even deeper, showing you how to apply the law of assumption to transform not just your finances, but every area of your life. Click and continue with me over there as we explore how to become the conscious author of your entire reality.